I caught my spoiled sister kissing my boyfriend just a week before her wedding. Imagine this, my sister's wedding day. A day that was supposed to be filled with joy, but instead it became the stage for a public humiliation so shocking, so utterly devastating, that it felt like something ripped straight from a movie. And I was the reason it all came crashing down. As a 28-year-old, I thought I had a pretty good handle on life. But then my younger sister, Sarah, who was 26, decided to shake things up. Her wedding was fast approaching, and that's when I started to notice things, subtle things at first, little actions around my 29-year-old boyfriend, Tom. That just left me feeling this gnawing unease. It started with these seemingly innocent comments. Sarah would say things like, "Wow, you're so funny," after one of Tom's jokes, even if it wasn't particularly amusing. She'd laugh a little too loud, a little too long at everything he said. At first, I tried to brush it off. It's just wedding excitement, I told myself. She's just being friendly. But then it escalated. Slowly, insidiously. She started finding excuses to touch him, casually placing a hand on his arm during conversation, or that little oopsie bump as she walked past. Subtle, yes, but unmistakably intentional. And those lingering glances, ugh. I'd catch her eyes on him when he wasn't looking, and my stomach would just clench. It was like a physical blow every time. One evening, after a family dinner where Sarah had been particularly flirtatious, I knew I couldn't keep quiet. We got home and I turned to Tom. Did you notice how Sarah was behaving tonight?" I asked, my voice a little shaky. He just looked at me, completely confused. "What do you mean?" he said. So I laid it all out. The excessive laughing, the unnecessary touches, the lingering stares. He listened, but then he just shrugged. "I think you're overthinking it," he said, so dismissively. "She's probably just excited about the wedding. It's harmless." Harmless? It felt anything but harmless. Despite his reassurances, that gut feeling screamed that something was terribly wrong. I tried to push it down, hoping I was just being paranoid. But the next few weeks were pure tension. Every time we were around Sarah, I became hyper-aware, watching her every move. She always found a way to position herself near Tom. Always. Sitting next to him, asking for his help with wedding tasks, even when I was standing right there. It was infuriating. Then came the family barbecue. I stepped inside to use the bathroom, and when I came back out, my heart just sank. There they were, Sarah and Tom, tucked away in a corner of the yard, talking quietly, standing far too close. Sarah was giggling at something he said, that same cloying laugh that now filled me with dread. The moment they saw me, they practically jumped apart. Sarah scurried off like a startled rabbit. A wave of nausea, of fury, washed over me. But I swallowed it. Not here. Not now. Later that night, when we were finally alone, I tried to be calm. "What were you and Sarah talking about earlier?" I asked, my voice tight. He looked surprised, then said it was just wedding details, music selection. "But why were you standing so close?" I pushed. He sighed, clearly frustrated. He tried to dismiss it again, insisting there was nothing going on, that she was just being friendly. But I couldn't hold it in anymore. "She's practically throwing herself at you, Tom, and you're doing nothing to stop it." My words seemed to wound him. He looked pained. "What do you expect me to do?" he asked. "She's your sister. I'm just trying to be polite." Polite? He thought telling her to back off was out of the question. I told him he could at least set some damn boundaries, make it clear he wasn't interested in anything more than friendship. But he insisted he wasn't interested at all, that I was seeing problems that didn't exist. We went in circles, neither of us willing to budge. We went to bed that night, angry and frustrated, the issue a gaping wound between us. The next day, I knew what I had to do. I had to confront Sarah directly. This avoidance was eating me alive. I called her, asked to meet for coffee. Her voice was cheerful, completely oblivious, and I just burned. We met at a little cafe. My hands trembled as I stirred my coffee, while she gushed about wedding plans. I couldn't take it. I cut her off mid-sentence. "We need to talk about something important," I said, my voice betraying the seriousness I felt. She looked at me, startled. "What's wrong?" Taking a deep breath, I started. I told her about her behavior around Tom. The flirting, the touching, the looks. I emphasized that it had to stop. I watched her face shift. Surprise, then confusion, then pure anger. She demanded to know what I was talking about, vehemently denying she'd been flirting. "Don't pretend, Sarah," I insisted. "You know exactly what I'm talking about." I told her actions were inappropriate and causing me immense distress. She actually laughed, a brittle, fake sound. "You're being ridiculous," she said, dismissing my concerns, claiming Tom was practically family and she was just being friendly. But her words did nothing but fuel my fire. I couldn't hold back. "It's more than friendliness. You're constantly finding excuses to be near him, to touch him, to laugh at his jokes, even when they're not funny." Her face turned crimson. The anger, the disbelief, especially so close to her wedding. She shot back, questioning my confidence, suggesting I was deeply insecure. Her words stung, but I stood my ground. "This isn't about insecurity, Sarah, it's about respect. You're crossing a line and it needs to stop." Suddenly, she stood up, her chair scraping loudly. The conversation was over. "I'm not going to sit here and listen to these paranoid, ridiculous accusations," she spat. "If you can't trust your own sister, that's your problem, not mine." With that, she stormed out, leaving me alone reeling. Had I overreacted? Was I truly paranoid? When I got home, Tom saw it immediately. He asked what happened, and I recounted the whole terrible conversation. I watched the concern grow on his face. When I finished, he let out a heavy sigh. "I think you made a big mistake," he said. He was worried Sarah would be deeply hurt right before her wedding. Defensive, I asked if he was taking her side. He swore he wasn't, but he doubted she was flirting. And even if she was, confronting her like that was not the way. His words just left me more conflicted, more alone. Tears welled up. So what was I supposed to do? I choked out. Just ignore it. The hurt, the frustration, it was all there. He put his arms around me, gently. He suggested maybe I could have handled it differently, talked to him more, or approached Sarah less confrontationally. He worried Sarah was now upset with both of us, that this would cast a shadow over her wedding. Overwhelmed, I pulled away. "So this is all my fault?" I demanded, needing him to tell me. He sighed deeply, struggling. He didn't mean to blame me solely, but he did think I might have overreacted. Let my emotions get the better of me. We argued more, but it was useless. We weren't seeing eye to eye. He eventually went to bed, leaving me with my swirling thoughts and doubts. The days that followed were pure misery. Sarah stopped speaking to me. My parents, seeing her distress, called, wanting to know why she was so upset. I tried to explain, but their responses made it clear they also thought I had overreacted. As the wedding day loomed, I was a mess. I was supposed to be a bridesmaid, a role that now felt like a cruel joke. I wasn't even sure if Sarah wanted me there anymore. Tom kept urging me to go, saying everything would blow over. But the thought of standing there, watching her walk down the aisle, knowing how angry and hurt she was, made me feel physically ill. I tried calling Sarah, leaving voicemails, even going to her apartment, but she wouldn't answer, wouldn't open the door. My anxiety spiraled. I even had a nightmare, me showing up at the wedding, everyone staring, pointing, whispering. I woke up in a cold sweat. Then, a week before the wedding, I tried to straighten things out with my parents. As I approached their front door, I heard hushed voices coming from the side of the house. Intrigued, I walked into the garden and froze. What I saw, it was like a punch to the gut. Sarah and Tom, partially hidden by a huge plant, locked in a passionate embrace. They were kissing, deep and hard, her legs wrapped around his waist, his hand beneath her top. So utterly absorbed they didn't even see me. All the air left my lungs. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. For a full minute, I just stood there, the reality of what I was seeing crashing down on me. Then, a primal scream ripped through me. What the hell is this? My voice trembled, thick with rage and betrayal. They sprang apart, shock etched on their faces. Guilty. So guilty. Sarah's face drained of all color. Tom stammered, "It's not what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like. Every fear, every suspicion I'd been gaslit over, confirmed in the most brutal way imaginable. Tears streamed down my face. How could you? I choked out. My own sister. And my boyfriend. The pain in my voice was unmistakable. Sarah started crying too, her voice quivering. "I'm so sorry. We didn't mean for this to happen." But I couldn't hear their excuses. The betrayal was too deep, too raw. Without another word, I turned and ran. Their desperate calls for me to come back fell on deaf ears. I drove away, my mind spinning. My phone began to ring. Tom, then Sarah, then my mom. I couldn't answer. The pain was too fresh, too overwhelming. I finally made it home, numb. I packed a bag, essentials. I couldn't stay. I sent Tom one last text. "We're done. Don't try to contact me again." Then I turned off my phone, cutting them all out. I'm writing this from a hotel room in a nearby city. The wedding is in a few days. I can't go. My relationship? Shattered. The bond with my sister? Irreparably damaged. My entire world has been turned upside down. Everyone made me feel like I was crazy, but in the end I was right all along. The pain of that realization, it's almost too much. How will I ever trust anyone again? Update. After that devastating shock, I spent days in a fog. My phone buzzed constantly, messages and calls from Tom, Sarah, my parents, but I couldn't respond. Too overwhelmed, too hurt. But eventually a thought broke through Mark. Sarah's fiancé. He had to know. With a heavy heart, I called him. When he answered, I could hear the confusion in his voice. He asked what was going on, mentioned Sarah was in a terrible state, saying I'd disappeared. Taking a deep breath, I told him everything. My initial suspicions, how everyone, including Tom and Sarah, had dismissed my concerns, and then the scene in my parents' garden. He listened, silently, just a small sound now and then to let me know he was still there. When I finished, there was a long, heavy silence. Then, in a controlled, measured voice, he simply said, "Thank you for telling me. I need some time to process this." And he hung up. I sat there, staring blankly at my phone. What would Mark do? As the wedding day approached, I heard nothing. From him, from my family. Sarah had stopped trying to reach me, and I started to fear she'd somehow convinced Mark to forgive her. The thought that she might actually get away with it, have her fairy tale wedding while my life was in ruins, it made me physically ill. I knew I couldn't attend. The idea of watching her walk down that aisle was unbearable. I decided to spend the day alone, focusing on how to rebuild. Then, on the evening of the wedding, my phone rang. It was my cousin, Emma. Her voice was hushed, urgent, crackling with excitement. "Oh my God, you won't believe what just happened." Confused, intrigued, I asked her what she meant. Emma dove into the story. Everything had seemed normal at first. Sarah, stunning in her dress. Mark at the altar. But when it came time for the vows, Mark stepped forward. He announced he had something to say. My heart pounded as Emma described the scene. In front of everyone, he declared he couldn't go through with the wedding. He told the guests he couldn't marry someone who had betrayed her own sister and devastated her life by getting involved with her boyfriend. Emma continued, describing Sarah's face, turning utterly pale. Then, to everyone's shock, Mark turned to my parents. He apologized to them, saying they needed to know the real reason why I'd distanced myself from the family. Sarah burst into tears. My parents, completely startled. The guests started whispering, a confused murmur filling the church. Then Mark just walked out. He left Sarah sobbing, alone at the altar. It was like something out of a movie, Emma gasped, her voice still tinged with disbelief. Everyone's in shock. Your parents are trying to get the full story from Sarah, but she's an emotional wreck. As I sat there, absorbing it all, I felt a mix of emotions. Vindication, yes. The truth was out, but also a deep sadness for the pain this had brought upon my family. Emma, sensing my silence, gently asked, "Are you okay?" I'm not sure, I said truthfully. I never wanted it to end like this. After a little more conversation, I hung up and sat in silence, trying to process it all. The truth was out, but at what cost? My friendship with Sarah was broken. My relationship with Tom was over. And now my whole family was in crisis. I saw then that while the truth might have set me free, it didn't instantly fix anything. Healing, regaining trust, that was going to be a long road. But for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a tiny flicker of relief. At least now, I could begin to move forward, unburdened by the weight of unspoken truths. Regarding what's next? I'm not sure. I know I'll eventually have to face my family, but right now, I'm just taking it one day at a time. If nothing else, this whole ordeal has shown me the value of trusting my gut, of standing up for myself, even when everyone around me questions my sanity. To everyone who supported me through this journey, thank you. Your words of encouragement have been more valuable than you could ever know. And to anyone else going through something similar, rely on your gut feeling. Do not let anyone gaslight you into disbelieving your own impressions. You are not crazy. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Have you ever had to fight for your truth when no one believed you? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.